Hello, and welcome to Beering in Mind Beer Reviews. And today we're going to begin a series of lambic beers from the brewery, which is called Lindemans in Belgium. We're going to look at 5 different fruited lambics, and then finally we will look at their fado, which is a sugared lambic. And I'm going to look at them in order of alcohol strength, just for no reason except that we're moving up the scale. These are all very, very low alcohol. The first one will start out at 2.5% alcohol, in fact. Lindemans is located a few kilometers outside of Brussels, and they are well known for their lambics and their artisanal gins, which they make as well. They've been going since 1822, and they're now in their 6th generation of family brewers, and so quite a history. They're most famous for these fruited lambics, but they also make a few other styles that are considered much more highly, I think. In any case, lambic is a beer which undergoes what's called spontaneous fermentation. In other words, it's not inoculated with yeast, as most beer is, to produce alcohol and flavors and aromas. What happens is the beer is brewed, often combinations of barley and wheat, and after the wort is boiled and cooled, they take it up to a higher area, up higher in the house or the brewing area, and spread it out into some shallow cooling trays. The Dutch word is koelschip, and in English it somehow just become a folk translation, cool ship. These are large, very wide cooling trays, and the wort is set up there to cool overnight, and the windows, dormers are opened, and the wild yeast floats in and inoculates the wort. And the area around Brussels has a concentration of very strong wild yeast. The most commonly known one is called Brett, or Brettanomyces, and it's a wild yeast, and so it comes in on the wind with maybe some other microflora. And then after one night, it's put into fermenters, into very large wooden barrels called foeders. And it's fermented for about 6 months there. Some places use foeders, and for example, Rodenbach is very famous for having a lot of foeders. And others use stainless steel and throw in wood chips to provide the wood atmosphere, the wood effect on the beer. And after about 6 months or so, it is matured for an additional 6 months, and then some lambics are bottled, and others are blended to make what's called gueuze. And gueuze is a blend of young and old lambics. So they may take a 1-year-old lambic and blend it with a 3-year-old lambic, and try to create some interesting flavors. This is the real magic, I think, of making an interesting beer. Very similar to what winemakers do. The wood is also similar to what winemakers do as well. But blending, it's kind of a point where the science leaves off and the art takes over, or maybe we could say craft takes over, deciding when and how much of each part of the age of the lambic should be put into another age, and that sort of thing. And so Lindemans produces a variety, again, of fruit lambics, and they also produce some other beers you may be more interested in. The fruit lambics are not terribly exceptional in quality. They're interesting, but not the best. If you can find their gueuze Cuvée Vernay, or one they make with Mikkeller, which is called Spontan Basil, or their Oud Lambic. Any of those 3 will give you a very different experience, I think. Okay, So this is just a brief introduction to Lindemans, and now we're going to move on to the first of the fruited lambics. Okay, and we're moving on now to Lindemans Kriek, and this is a lambic fruited beer from Lindemans. It is 3.5%, and they've been making this one since 1979, so it's been around for quite a while. Kriek is a kind of a special style of lambic. The sour cherry note seems to take lambic up into a different kind of universe. Their lambic here, they use 25% of fresh sour cherry filtrate, and then they blend it with lambic, which is at least a year old, and they macerate it with the lambic, or they macerate it and let it sit for 3 days or so, and then pasteurize it. Apparently they had trouble with this when they first were importing it or exporting it to the US, and bottles were blowing up on the ship due to the motion of the ship, and corks were popping and that sort of thing. So they decided to pasteurize it, and that took care of the secondary fermentation, stopped the secondary fermentation. They make a different version, a cuvee Old Kriek, and that one is not pasteurized. Okay, so we'll get into this in a second here. I hope you are surviving these difficult days. People are talking a lot about what they're doing to pass the time, to survive during this time of, it's not quite lockdown where I live, but people are encouraged to stay home. And I've been watching a lot of movies, and I started reading this biography of the Beatles, and it's almost 1,000 pages, so it's going to take a while to get through it. I started it a few days ago. Very, very interesting. You think you know everything about a group or about a certain aspect of culture, and of course there's a lot more that you do not know. Another friend of mine is listening to an audiobook of World War Z, which was made into a kind of a crappy movie with, I think Brad Pitt was in it. But he said the audiobook has all these amazing actors and who are reading different parts of it here. So people are doing what they can to try to get by. And of course we're also drinking beer. And let's get back to it here. Lindemans Kriek, 3.5% lambic, fruited lambic from Lindemans. On RateBeer, this one has 2,485 ratings, an average score of 3.47, a percentile score of 75% for all beers on RateBeer, and 32 percentile for its style, which is lambic or fruited here. Let's give this red one a go. A little ghost popped out of the top there. Okay, so this is certainly a very bright red, and it has a kind of thick kind of compact pink head. And let's take a look at it in the light here. You can see it is translucent. In front of you it's almost opaque, but through the light it's a very, very pretty color. So again, 25% of this was macerated cherries. A very strong cherry aroma, almost like cherry candy, or cough drops, that sort of thing. Just a bit of yeast, something a little slightly funky there. The aroma is something, but the taste, wow. This is sweet and sour, cherries, very strong. Mid-palate, it gets a little syrupy sweet, a little bit too much, I think, and it goes maybe over to something like a sweet plum sort of thing. Final, yeah, final is, again, sweet, perfumey, kind of thick sweetness. Overall, this is mildly tart, kind of tasty. It's not terribly lambic in character, though. I don't know, the fruit may be too strong or something, or not. The yeast didn't really take over enough, but I think this is the way they intended to make it. It's okay. One is enough, though, for this one. Some of the others, the apple one or the peach one, I could throw down, 2 in a row easily. This one, I don't really want to drink a whole lot more. On the website, Lindemans claims that the renowned beer writer Michael Jackson, probably the best beer writer ever, called this one of the 5 best beers in the world, and that was in 1985. I'm sure if he were alive today, he would not say the same thing, but in any case, I think he was somewhat impressed with this beer. If it's in fact true that he said this, I couldn't find that, but they claim that on the website. In any case, you might give this a try. Lambics are kind of a hard style to get into for many people, and the Lindemans series of fruited lambics are a very easy way in to begin to experience the world of lambics here. So give it a try. This is Lindemans Kriek 3.5% fruited lambic beer. Okay, that's it. Come back next time and we'll be looking at another fruited lambic from Lindemans, and then we'll look at their Faro. That's it for today. Take care.